So you guys have probably heard about this, but there's a PvP summit thingamajigger, and that's just what it's called. I'm sure everyone's gonna be like, "Ooh, this is all fancy." Most of these people that they've listed are insanely good. Actually, all of them. But I sort of have doubts about it, and I'll kind of try to explain. Um, I'm not quite sure if Colossus Smash is 100% this way anymore, but I know Frostbomb is. But they are stronger in PvE than they are in PvP. Not like damage-wise, like everything is. Just Colossus Smash does like 100% PvE. That may have been nerfed. They changed that in like Kata, and it's sort of hard to say now. But they definitely have changed that. So the whole separating the two is probably going to be like the number one generic suggestion of balance the game around PvP separately than PvE because it's just generally messing up. And Blizzard has said a couple times that they don't like that mindset just because they feel like you shouldn't have to learn a new skill set, whatever it is, from PvE to PvP. You should just be like, oh, this is how my abilities work. You know, if you start fighting a Blood Death Knight at PvE or whatever as a warrior, you're going to know Colossus Smash is like a really important ability and shit. That's just sort of a given. Similarly, if you're playing with Frostbomb on a mage, you know Frostbomb's part of your burst and you have to set up for it. You know, in PvP it may be slightly more nerfed and you wouldn't necessarily use it the way you would in PvE, things like that, but it's definitely there. So, I'm pretty sure they'll come up with a giant list of stuff that they're going to change, or want them to change, and Blizzard's just going to cross half of it off. So, that's why I don't have the highest of hopes. Anyway, the story about when we found out about this. The people that are going are Hoodrich, Soda, Rekful, Vinruki, Nadagast, Tosin, Risen, Talb, Vanguard's Collective, and Athlete. Pretty sure Collective doesn't play anymore, so I'm not quite sure why he's there. I'm surprised it's not Sea-Doo, because Collective hasn't logged on him forever, I'm pretty sure. But everything else aside, the first thing my friends messaged me when we were talking about this in the Skype call was like, wow, there's no monks, you're just fucked. And then we looked at the list again and we're like, wait a minute. Hoodrich has a monk, Soda has a monk, Vinruki has a monk, Nadagast has a monk, Tosin has a monk, Risen has a monk, Talbadar has a monk, and Athlete has a monk. And I'm pretty sure some of the others have monks too, but I don't know if they necessarily play it. Of all classes, even though it's not necessarily their mains, monks are the most well represented, and I find it really funny. So someone's like, well, I'm playing with you whenever this patch thingy comes out, and it's kind of a joke, but it's actually amusing. I think it's a good spread of players. For the most part, I'm sure some of you are wondering, you'd be like, look at the ladder and go, why didn't they pick X, Y, or Z? And I actually really like what they picked, even though, who's a good example? Alright, Nadagast is probably the best example. Although Hoodrich wasn't necessarily competitive for a while too. They picked some players that's like, maybe there's higher rated options, things like that, people who have also been to tournaments, whatever it is. But the reason I like this list so much is, if someone showed up there and says, we want to bring BC back to Rogues type deal, Risen would understand it. Rekful would understand exactly what they meant. It'd be like, you have to vanish the Death Coil or you die in it type deal. You could bring the feeling of BC back, or Wrath, or whatever you want it to be, back to Rogue. So there's enough patches and various things that everyone's been through to really have a good understanding of what the classes actually could use or how it should be set up. So I think it's actually a great group that they picked. I'm just afraid Blizzard's going to be like, nope, we can't do that. Nope, can't do that. Nope, can't do that. And then possibly make it even worse. They'd be like, we've changed half of this, but we haven't changed the other half, so now you're just screwed. Let me try to give an example really quickly. One of my thoughts, which, for one, I have no idea how well this would work out. It's sort of an old mechanic that hasn't been in a while. Why is there a overall reduced healing debuff for Arena? I can't remember what it's called. The thing that reduces healing by a lot. That. Why is that there when they had a perfectly fine mechanic for that back in Wrath and BC called Mortal Strike? Not all classes had it. That's true. They could theoretically put it on all classes and have it only one kill target, or however they want to do it. Why did they remove that for Kata and then decide to put it back in for Mop, but not put it back into its old mechanic? That just makes no sense to me. Similarly, one of the things I was thinking about was the old Unrelenting Assault debuff on Warriors. That was actually one of, well, the harder things to do, both ways. Juking that was actually insanely hard, simply because it was a 6-second cooldown and it was part of their DPS rotation. Also, it was insanely hard to use because you held half your GCD rotation on global to be able to land it on a cast that, for the most part, people were trying to juke. Whether it's your pummel or that, people were trying to juke it. So, adding something like that back into the game, even if you didn't put Mortal Strike in, making it something like that, and then making people have to cast again and removing some of the CC might be a good option. So there's plenty of things they could do. I'm sure there'll be interesting things that are stated. I really hope these players actually come out and be like, here's what we suggested. We're not sure what's actually all going to go through. Either way, I'm kind of hopeful about it, I guess. You're kind of hopeful about every patch, but it ends up being silly. But, yeah, Monk's really well represented if you're a Monk. Who else is really well represented? Warriors are in there a lot. Technically, there's a lot of Shamans in there. Although, there's not technically a lot of Shamans in there. Because there's not actually like a real Shaman player. Surprised Novos isn't in there. He's been around forever. Maybe they actually just think Ellie's are in a good place. Or they didn't pick players based off of that. Although, I'm pretty sure Novos has been more represented at various things than Risen has. I don't know. Same with Athlete, actually. I don't think Athlete's been to anything. He's just been high rated as fuck the entire time. He was like, whatever it was, Illidan 5s back in the day. Every season. Actually, I think his account has like the second most rank 1s or something. Or used to. I know it used to. He used to have like all of them. It's crazy. Anyway, that's been my thoughts on that. This game was really long, so I'm just going to cut out the beginning, and you actually won't have noticed it. That's why the game started in the midway through. I wasn't quite sure how long I'd be able to talk about this, or if random ideas would pop up into my head as I was recording this, so I'm going to cut it here, and cut it down to the ending. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully some of you enjoy my warrior. I still suck at it. Clearly, I should have gone in defensive stance when I like run into Fist of Furies and things like that, and it's still rusty, but generally speaking, I think I'm getting better on it, or at least getting back up to par, although I think I was still up to par from before, just from what I used to play. Warriors used to be so much harder. Anyway, thanks for watching.